in the dark, I play my dreams. Permaculture flows like sweet streams. I'm the daddy with the know-how seed. Creating the world like it's meant to be. Permaculture, P-I-M-P, I'm the king. That's in love in everything. Bring a change, making it last. Join the permaculture.
Yeah, you gotta like those new jams. Welcome to Permaculture Pimpcast, episode 291. Yeah, we're going to be talking about some stuff y'all want to know tonight, folks. And I'm telling you, you're going to want to tell everybody you know to tune in because, well, I'll get down to the nitty gritty here in a bit. I'm just going to handle the housekeeping up front because I don't want to get sideways from what we're going to be talking about, folks, because this is of profound value, especially if you've been going through the kind of nonsense we've been going through around here regarding tech, and it ain't an accident. And folks, I was just telling my guest before we went live here about some of the things we're going on. But as always, y'all, hit that thumbs up, tell everybody we're live so they can start suppressing this information, okay? And tell everybody you know that we're on here doing our thing. This episode, as always, brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from twooldcrowshomestead.com. Turn that simp into a pimp. Bam! Living Soil Foundation. That's the one we started, y'all, to clean up Western North Carolina. Look, I was also talking off the record with my guest about some of the things we're doing around here to do that very thing, folks. I can't be more excited. And you folks out there that have look, I know it's hard enough to put bread on the table, but I can't thank you enough for your donations out there. So thank you so much, folks. Farm Connection. They got a special, well, not a special, but basically they got a deal right now that if you get anything from them, 10% off with promo code PERMA. That Wave Watch, if you want those solfeggio tones bumping through your whole body like I had them jams from the beginning, Billy 100 will get you 100. Actually, right now they're running a special. You can get $150 off. And then coming up March 18th through the 22nd, Shalom Temple's got that 5-day immersion event. Had Jonathan Otto on last night. And somehow, some way, that one didn't get deplatformed. So, wow, heavens to Murgatroyd, I'll take it. Also, Barbara O'Neill is going to be the headliner there. And, of course, yours truly is going to be handling some, I'll be doing some classes there as well, showing you specifics on how we're cleaning up North Carolina and how you can be doing it at your place. And remember, May 2nd through the 4th, mountainreadiness.com. You want to hang out with sappers like me, Rangers, Delta Force, you name it, man. They're probably all going to be at this event. And it's not just a hood kind of thing where it's guys only. Folks, I'm telling you, this is the best event you don't know about. You're going to want to be there. And also, Redemption Shield, 10% off with promo code PERMA. And don't forget about EMP Shield. Y'all, look, if things jump off, you want to be G'd up from the feet up like I always am. And you can put them on your vehicles. You can put them on your house. And if anything downstream gets Kentucky fried, they're going to cover you for 25 G's. All right, y'all. Now that I got all the housekeeping squared away up front, I want to thank Renewed Homestead, Denise in particular, for getting us squared away tonight. Look, don't start no SH and there won't be no IT in the chat. You know the deal. And if you start tripping, she's going to send you on the first thing smoking. Now, folks, before I go to my guest, I got to kind of set the stage here a little bit. And once again, if you're new coming in, please hit the thumbs up. YouTube is doing a number on us lately. I just got deplatformed twice yesterday on TikTok for that video that I put out yesterday regarding the radar images. I mean, crazy enough, they took it down. I put it up a different way thinking they wouldn't take it down. Well, they did. And there's a whole lot of tech crazy stuff going on around here. Let me kind of set the stage. Okay. Folks, maybe it's based on what I'm talking about, and I'm willing to bet a buffalo nickel. That's exactly the reasons why. They've been playing with our banking. They've been playing with our advertisers. They've been playing even with the people that we're tangentially affiliated with. They've been playing with them too. When I say they, I don't know who they are. All I know is the powers that shouldn't be. So I was on a phone call yesterday. Check this out. And it couldn't be more apropos to what we're going to be talking about tonight. I was on a phone call yesterday with a guy that makes certain devices that I'm not going to talk about publicly yet because he's just not ready for me to do it. And all of a sudden, my phone, this very phone right here, my old phone, I'll come to that in a minute. The thing did something it never did before. All of a sudden, I couldn't control the buttons. I mean, it was completely unresponsive. And then I couldn't call back. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? So I said, okay, let me use this other phone I got. And it's called an above phone. No problems whatsoever. No problem at all, folks. They are screwing with us up one side and down the other. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of you people are being messed with as well. So to answer all things concerning this sort of thing, I brought on my man, Hakeem. How you doing, buddy?
Yo, Bailey, I'm doing great, man. And yeah, things are heating up right now. And so this is really the time to get your tools together and learn new skills, man. So I'm glad you picked up that phone and it was able to get your call going.
Well, bro, I will tell you, I mean, and I've told a lot of people here, I've been trying to create something of a sabbatical for myself regarding all tech based on some of the things I've learned from, Dr. Cruz and a number of others out there. And a big part of the reason why I'm wearing blue light blockers right now at night. And honestly, I got to say, I'm seeing massive improvements, especially with my sleep. But in addition to that, I'm like, okay, I'm really, really, really trying to distance myself as much as I possibly can. But I'm a businessman also, and you got to have these things. So I was like, okay, man, where on earth do we even start with this sort of thing? But let me back up a little bit, because not everybody's going to know who you are. We got tons of new listeners all the time. We're live on YouTube and whatever platform will have us right now. Of course, X will not let us broadcast over there, but we're everywhere but X going live right now. And we got a lot of new people all the time. Our biggest platform is definitely in the podcast space, and they're not going to all know who you are. So why don't you give everybody, what brought you here and why did you create this phone?
Yeah, man. So my background is I used to work for the man as a software engineer, and I had good mentors in my life, and I was kind of awake to the whole agenda, what was going on with our military, what was going on with big pharma, big food, big ag, all of these things. Luckily, at the start of my career, and for that reason, when I was trying to find work, I was building mobile applications, I was building web applications. I was really getting a taste of everything. And I think those are really important skills I needed to gather, but I always felt unfulfilled, and I was not really sure what I was contributing to. But then it became really, really clear. I was working in New York City during COVID 1984. And then I realized, all right, this is for real. This is happening. This Agenda 2030, it's coming really quick. I got to see the illusion disappear right before my eyes. During that time, the food would shut off to the entire island. So you would go into Trader Joe's and you would go around and be like, all right, I guess I'm having beans for dinner, and I'm lucky to have that. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to stay in the city and work a cushy big tech jobs like my friends were at the time, making tons of money. I was like, I'm not going to do this. I can't contribute to this and build this prison around me, to help build it around us. And so I quit my job. I moved back home, and I decided I was going to work with social movements. I didn't know the answer, but I had some friends. Some of my friends, Derek and John, were founders of the Freedom Cell Network. And this was groups of people all around the country, all around the world, coming together to do things like get off the grid, to exit and build, pull their money out of the bank, start homesteading, all these things, and we would help each other. So I helped out. I built the infrastructure for the website and many, many other things. And through that process, I was like, okay, this is what it's all about. This is why I should be building and working with internet technologies, is to bring people together like this. We just saw a lot of beautiful growth in 2020. We are not alone is the first thing we realized. And it's kind of what you said earlier, right? It's like you want to take a sabbatical from tech, but also we've got this worldwide family, and we're all helping each other out. We're all learning from each other. And that's the first place we turned to when the world got crazy around us and everyone was too scared to go outdoors. We had to look online to see who was still had their head on straight. So part of that process, I needed to figure out what I needed to do, because I was going around the country talking shit about Google and Apple, and also their close collaboration with our government, I knew I was blackballed. I couldn't go back to that life. So I found that I could be of service to people, and one, helping them with their technology. So I started teaching for free, teaching people how to use open source operating systems, how to detoxify their phones. And eventually there was so much demand, I had to build a business around it. So that's our business. We're called Above. I'm the founder and CEO. We've been going on for 4 years, and we build privacy phones, privacy laptops, and communication services. So Billy, that when you're working on these future tech projects with your friends, and you're trying to get on the phone with them, and someone's trying to mess with you, that's not even the realm of possibility. With internet-based communications, there's no way for them to intercept it so too easily. So that's what we're all about, is trying to build a parallel economy and facilitate it being created through different technologies.
Bro, you knocked it out of the park just in that opening statement right there. Is that, at the end of the day, I know that I have to have this thing. Like, Denise is doing our chat right now, Renewed Homestead. When this thing jumped off, this hurricane here in Western North Carolina, I think all of us, I mean all of us, because we didn't know if they were living or dead. We didn't know what happened to them, and we had no way to communicate with one another. So now all of a sudden, everybody that was mixed up in this thing said, oh, snap. We may have everybody I know is, for the most part, in the prepper space, in the permaculture space, and the renew, so we realized at that point, all of us did, that the biggest smoking gun was our communication. That was the biggest problem we had. Now, granted, when the lines are down, we don't have internet or anything like that, or cell towers. Those things aren't going to do us any good. So we were looking for other options. All the way down to carrier pigeons, for crying out loud. So, at the end of the day, it was like the experience I just had literally yesterday. I'm on the phone talking about something that is a big time mover and shaker in terms of what needs to happen. And all of a sudden my phone isn't working. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I got this other phone that I got from Hakeem. Let's try this thing. So when the thing was functional again, I was able to pick this phone up, this one right here, this Above phone. And, able to, honestly, I told you before we started, bro, I went into this thing kicking and scratching, didn't want to even fool with this thing, because I'm like, man, come on, man, one more device, one more thing to learn. And then I realized that my problem, and I guess I would bet $1 to donuts that a lot of people, I'm 54 years old, and I'm not your age, and I'm not my son's age. I can't just pick one of these things up and know how to, but that's what I was telling myself. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I was telling myself. As I've been playing with this thing, I'm like, hold on. I can sit here and have conversations with my wife about whatever. And on my other phone, next thing you know, I'm getting ads for whatever we're talking about, which honestly pisses me off to no end, that they're able to just bug me in violation of my Fourth Amendment. That's exactly who's doing it. It's probably big government. I don't know who exactly is doing it. I'm sure you would, or at least have better ideas. And then all of a sudden I pick up the phone, your Above phone, and it just does what I want it to do. It's a tool, for crying out loud. And now I'm realizing, you know what? I'm sitting here surfing the web on this thing. I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure this chat thing out. I'm making phone calls. I'm doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't feel guilty about doing it, because I know that nobody's tracking me. So how does that, okay, I said a whole lot there, bro. And
where do we want to start? No, this is so great. Partially, I'm very proud, because, like I was saying earlier, you're when we first started using it, I wasn't sure. I thought you were going to snap it in half. So no, I love it. Right? There's this point, and dude, I want to let you know that is what happens on the other side when you don't have a green thumb, man. The plants in this house, I'm really struggling with them. And there's this perception we have of ourselves when we're going into something new. Like, I'm not sure I can do it. But I promise you, you spend enough time with something, you learn it, and you get into that flow state. So I'm really happy to hear that. And I feel like anyone should be able to try. Like, most of our customers actually are from 40 to 60 years old, because that's the demographic who really cares about this and has principles around this. And I guess they really see it, which I'm kind of frustrated because I can't get as many people in my generation to really give it that effort. So it's just interesting to hear that. But to tell people what is the phone? What is the phone doing? Well, the main difference between this phone and what you would find in the stores is it's transparent, right? And that's just the software that's in the phone. The phone is typically not just one single piece of software. It's a lot of different pieces of software. The software that lets you send text messages to other people. There's software that is the specific apps on your phone. And then there's your phone's operating system itself, right? Which is like the house that all of your apps live in. And so all of these things on an iPhone or on a Google phone or a Samsung phone, all of these things, you don't see how they're built. You have no idea. And you can kind of get the hints that it's not there for your benefit. It's really a money-making machine. You might have paid $1,000 or whatever. You might be paying it on contract and be locked into that. But really, they're making money off you on the back end of your data, because that's the most valuable thing. And so Google's business model has been since day one to provide you what seems like a very valuable service, but on the back end, be collecting that data. So as John McAfee has said before, if someone is giving you something for free, you are paying several times more than what it's actually worth on the back end. So Google does that with all of its projects. And then with working with freedom and people in the freedom space, this was the thing that scared me most. It's like, oh, okay, you're an activist group or you're a homesteading or survival group, and you're giving all your intelligence away to one of these two big tech companies. That's the most scary thing, right? So so at the core, this phone is transparent. You can go look at all the software. The software we use is called Graphene OS. We have our own custom image of it. So it's a phone, and there's no Google inside of it at all. So it's not communicating to Google. We've gone ahead and validated this, and that's why you don't have advertising on your phone. You don't have the centralized tracking. You don't have the contact tracing. You don't have the super high in-depth location that it would get from collecting nearby Wi-Fi networks. All of these different things, it's more about what you don't have, just like with organic food. So at a high level, that's what the phone is. And then we also run software services for alternative communications, right? You know a little bit about iMessage, right? Do you use like iMessage a lot with your friends and stuff?
Negative, bro. Honestly, well, I wasn't kidding about the smoke signals, bro. I mean, honestly, I know how to text on a regular phone. But now with yours, I'm feeling, because I know all these things, like you're saying. This podcast is about permaculture, preparedness, and practical living. Well, part of that means operational security. And that's part of the reason why I put this freaking thing in a Faraday bag every time I do anything that's of consequence. The people I know, whenever we're around each other, we try to operate with some, and I'm like, dude, this is just, it drives me crazy, because it's like working with the devil to a certain extent. And maybe we should kind of let's circle back to that a little bit, because what are the biggest misconceptions that people have about digital privacy today? I mean, they pick this thing up, they bank on it, they do their Facebook, they do their YouTube, they do every single thing on this phone. It's so ingrained to us. You ever misplace your phone and then your heart starts thumping? Okay, that's called a freaking addiction. That's called a problem in my view. So what are the biggest misconceptions that people have about digital privacy today? We all operate on this thing with impunity, not even thinking that, what's going on. So what are the problems with it?
Yeah, there's so many, right? And so I could speak to the addiction thing, because that's something that's important to our company. I mean, I'm not here with a tech company that sells phones and laptops. My purpose is not for you to get absorbed into this world. I want you to be in the real world, and this is just a tool to support you in doing that. And right now, one of the things that's really important to me is how tapped in kids are to this network. They're spending over 8 hours on their phones every single day.
Wow.
Kids that are teenagers right now, and that really scares me. So I do a lot of research on what's the best way we can use these phones so we're not super pulled in. And the answer, time and time again, is to avoid those social media apps. I mean, I hate to say it, but there's only a few bad apples. There's some big, gross ass bad apples with some worms in it, and they happen to be in everyone's phones. And I can name them off: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp even. And all of these social media platforms is what keeps you absorbed. They also have the biggest number of analytics and advertisers embedded in it, so they get a lot of rich information with it. And on the backside, they have a collaboration with either Google or Apple, right? Because there's a lot. Google and Apple, depending on which phone you're using, are logging everything you're doing on the phone, and they're running these advertising networks. So to give you a high-level view of what is happening, the home of your phone, the operating system, they're logging everything you're doing in that. On average, it's been studied by studies like Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland. They looked at phones and found that they were connecting back home every 5 minutes. And what they do is they give you little IDs, right? It could be an ID for your phone number, the IMSI ID, which is related to your identity on the mobile network, or it could be your equipment identity, which is your phone's identity. And Google and Apple are capturing all of this, and they're looking to associate what you're doing on the phone with what you're doing on the computer to everything you're doing in real life. So that's the really scary thing here. And this is some news that broke really recently. You might have heard that Google actually changed its principles, which it's had since 2018. Google got a lot of pushback for Project Nimbus, which I believe had to do with U.S. military drones. And Google said there's a big protest inside Google saying, hey, we shouldn't be contributing to developing weapons. And Google had these principles created after that, promising that it wouldn't, and it pulled out of this project. But recently, they have changed this. And so here are the principles: to not pursue technologies that cause overall harm, to develop weapons or technology that cause or directly facilitate injury to people, technologies that gather or use information for surveillance, violating internationally accepted norms, technologies whose purpose contradicts principles of international law and human rights. So now that is off the table, and now they're using a little bit more generic language where they're saying they're going to consider human rights. So thank you, Google, for considering our human right and the rights of everyone across the earth. But this is just one area where we're seeing this shift, as a lot of these big tech companies are now feeling a lot more confident under Trump's administration. And the collusion between government and tech is just going on and on. So if there are more draconian laws, expect them to be enforced by big technology. And that's where the danger really comes in, Billy.
Dude, this is absolutely dreadful. It really is. If we had this conversation 20 years ago, people would be losing their ever-loving minds. But because it's been done in like a Fabian socialist kind of fashion where they kind of incrementally bring it in, and then before you know it, you're surrounded by this octopus and you don't even know it until maybe it's too late. And that's where I'm so thankful that you created something like this, because I gotta wonder, man. I mean, how much data is the average smart user unknowingly giving away to big tech every day?
Well, we have numbers. There's every 12 hours, Google gets it's out of all the 100 million people in the US, I think it's like 200 million users. They get around 12 gigabytes of data from our phones. So that's around 6 movies worth of data, right? And that's the and this is considering the amount of data that's being sent from one phone. And it could be optimized, it could be kind of compressed. But besides that, it's not just about the quantity of data, it's about the quality of data. And as you know, these things have microphones, these things have cameras. So they could be logging a lot of it on the back end. It could be happening through the apps on the phone as well. And so when it comes to using these phones, all we can do is opt out. That's the best thing that we can do. And so these de-Googled phones, as I like to call them, they don't have Google in it, but they're using the open source foundation that Google purchased. Google didn't even create it themselves. They purchased it, and they used an open team of developers to build it. You can take that foundation, keep the security and privacy, and strip out all the Google stuff. You can leave that behind. And then there's also different tools you can use. And by the way, I just wanted to say how thankful I am for people like you, Billy, that go out into the front lines, the war zone. I was watching your video with Christopher Key, and do the important work on the ground. I wish I could do more work like that myself, and I'm inspired to help out more as these disasters become normalized, which is terrible. But in order to get these things done, you need to have communication services, and so that's what we offer. We also have encrypted messaging apps, and we have video conferencing tools. And this is what I recommend for people to use, because sending phone calls and text messages, there's not private in any way. And if you're doing something important in this world, you should not be using it.
Man, wow. I got to be honest with you, man. I did a call with you on the and honestly, I liked it better than Zoom. It seemed like it worked just perfectly fine. It wasn't glitchy. It wasn't any of those things. But I got to ask you, man, I mean, in this world where everybody's on pins and needles right now, it seems like everybody's not everybody, but people that are awake are really, really concerned about this 500 billion that's just been handed over to a bunch of tech oligarchs and stuff. And they're wondering, because I want to circle back to this phone, but man, I'd be so remiss if I had somebody like you on here and didn't ask you this question, because you're the consummate expert, as an engineer on this sort of thing. Trump's talking about handing over 500 billion, $500 billion to a bunch of tech oligarchs who already got us in digital prisons right now. I got to ask, first of all, what are your thoughts on this, and where do you think it might lead?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy, and it seemed like it came out of nowhere. There's this AI rush right now, and I want to start by saying I believe that you can use AI in a good manner, but Sam Altman, Larry Ellison, the CEO of Oracle, these are not good guys. And if you listen to what they're saying, actually, this happened earlier today, Billy. Larry Ellison was at the World Government Summit, Saudi Arabia, and he's talking about I'm sorry, this is actually an older video. It didn't happen today, but this he was basically saying we need to unify the world's health data under one system so AI can study it. And what he wanted to do with this Project Stargate, this $500 billion project, is he wanted to use AI to develop mRNA cancer vaccines. That's his goal. So these people are so disconnected from reality. And I also have to wonder if the people who are maybe awake to the things that happened in the past 5 years, how can they not see that we're still continuing in that direction just because the political climate has changed? We're on that pendulum. We were super far left. Hey, guess what? Biden had his own directives, like Directive 406, which was in the last few days of his presidency, which said, hey, let's remove barriers between big tech and intelligence agencies. And hey, this is continuing through the Trump administration, where you've got this Project Stargate. He's working closely with Elon Musk. Some people are praising it, but I think we need to be more careful. In Project Stargate's case, this is going to be a test bed for a future kind of smart city dystopian future where everything you do is tracked. Larry Ellison has a bunch of great quotes. He said, once we get AI up and running and it's going to be monitoring everything, people are going to be on their best behavior.
Yeah.
Well, that's, who are they to judge? Who are these people to judge anyone's behavior? And we're going to start to see this AI embed itself. Like we're already seeing Google's getting ready to release a local language model inside the messaging app. Samsung already tries to make you pay for the AI services. Apple, years back, had tried to add in AI scanning of the photos on your phone, but there was a lot of big backlash. So the only reason they can roll out these features is because you're on a closed platform. They can roll out updates whenever they want to 7 billion phones at once, and you have no choice about it. This is why using de-Googled phones is so important. You actually have a way out.
Well, what's the consummate definition of fascism? The unholy alliance between corporate and state. And of course, we see that it doesn't matter the administration. We see it, like as you rightly pointed out, we see it going from one to the other, just making slight transitions. And then when you, like you said, you look at the quotes of these poll cats like Larry Ellison saying, "Oh," and of course they always got to paint it. They always got to paint it in a nice brush, like, "Oh, the cop will be on really, really good behavior if he pulls." Right. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. Well, yeah. Why don't you show me the Google data when you and all the other sickos were over there at Epstein Island? Show us that data. Of course, yeah, we're not going to see any of that. It's not ever going to see the light of day. But,
don't hold your breath to have these files released. It's really sad that there is a ton of suffering going on in this world. I mean, I have to mention Gaza too, right? Because I think part of the reason why Google is so excited and they removed these terms of service is because, they're one of the biggest providers to the Israeli Defense Forces. And now there's Project Abraham, which you might have heard of, but it's the new plan to strengthen Israel's security in the region. But that plan ultimately results in shifting 1.5 million people out of Gaza, the Palestinians out of Gaza, and sending them on a death march to I don't know where. But here's something really interesting. You could go on projectabraham.com. I think you'll see this in their plan. One of the things about their plan is as they shift governance inside there is they're going to say cash in the Gaza Strip will be abolished and an advanced mechanism of monetary supervision will be implemented.
Say what?
That's a digital currency right there.
Dude, I did not know that. Wow. Yeah. And I'm usually on top of these things. Wow.
Yeah, this has been coming out for the past few days, and you want to talk about a smart city. I do understand too. I don't know why if you haven't seen the videos coming out of Gaza, but I think this is a universal. This is a universal issue. We're living right now through a repeat of Nazi Germany, but now we get to see it with our very own eyes. And some people don't want to take a stand. Well, hey. This affects you too, because this is just an experiment, right? This is just a test bed for what they want the whole world to look like. And so for that reason, it's really, really scary. You've got these AI drones that can target you. You've got these places where digital currency and biometric checkpoints and all of that. And we're letting these people run away with the power.
Yeah, I'm not going to run away from the issue, bro. I've lost a lot of people over the fact of where I stand on this, and it's nothing short of genocide in my book, and I'm not going to apologize for it. And you know what? And I've made it very clear on this program, if you believe the official story of what happened on October 7th or whenever it was, you are a moron, okay? I'm not even going to be – I know we're going a little bit sideways here, but, hey, you brought it up, and so, look. Yeah. I'm gonna pull the cat all the way out of the bag. Anybody that's done any kind of military service like myself would tell you, let me get this right. These guys came over on paragliders to the most secure border on the planet outside of Guantanamo Bay, were there unmolested for 8 hours. People like Max Egan have proven that 90% of all the footage that came out of there was completely doctored, completely AI generated, folks. Yeah, you're not going to hear that on fixed news. You're not going to hear that on the mainstream prostitutes. You're not going to hear all that. And now what I'm hearing from Hakeem here is, wow, this is turning out to be the very first legit smart city. And you hear all the overtures. Now, all of it based on what you just told me there, the whole thing comes into view. So they can take the modern day Trail of Tears, which is in the Middle East right now. They can sit here and take this. And then on the heels of this immense tragedy that's unfolding right in front of our faces, but the American population has been largely dumbed down to believe that these people over there can't do any wrong.
And it's our tax dollars, and we're gonna have a stake in that. That's insane. Really. And yeah, I salute you, Billy, for standing up. I know it hasn't been easy. I mean, we're facing censorship on every side of the issue, right? Doesn't matter. The left-leaning social media companies, YouTube, strike there. I
Yeah.
mean, you mentioned, Twitter's supposed to be the free speech platform. What? It's really not. It's really not. And even Facebook, or did I say Facebook? I meant Twitter. But even Facebook, which now has kind of walked back on its misinformation policies, right? It's okay to criticize the DEI stuff, guys, but you can't criticize the government.
Thank you very much.
You definitely can't criticize Israel.
No, you can't do any of that. So, I mean, honestly, as a little side note, just for all the people out there, look, I know my days are probably numbered to a certain extent on these platforms. Because I'm not going to shut up, and I'm going to stand up for what I know is right and let justice be done, though the heavens fall. So, look, I had a job before I had this one. So, and I made really good money. I made a good living doing it, and I could always go back to doing it. So, I even had a discussion with Michelle today, like, hey, if I keep down this road, I can't shut up about it. If I keep down this road, it's likely going to happen. I'm already, having videos taken down. Elon Musk is already not letting me from the very beginning go on X and do any of this stuff, which kind of brings us right back to this whole phone thing. I got to ask, what makes your above phone so much different from all these other secure smartphones that I'm hearing about? And I know this is laughable, but I'm hearing about it in ads on, let's say, YouTube or Rumble or some of these other. But what makes yours so different from these other competitors out here?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the ingredients, right? It's you're looking at a small company that's building on top of community-focused open source software. And that's the first thing that you need to look at, whether you're looking at our privacy phone or you're looking at another one. Where is the code? Where does it show me what exactly it's doing? Where are the apps coming from? And so one of our pledges is we use open source software all the way down to our email systems, to everything we're doing internally, to the phone, to the apps on the phone, and everything is clearly labeled if it's not open source. So to give you an example of that, I'll actually pull the phone up here so you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. So all of the apps on this phone are free and open source with the exception of one, and that is something called Magic Earth right there. And the reason Magic Earth isn't is because it uses traffic data, right? It's this company which has a very good privacy policy, but it uses traffic data and it does your server-side routing online. So the other opposite way is actually using something called OpenStreetMaps, which this is a free and open source application. And that means that you can use it offline. It's transparent. You can use it offline. You can download the maps to your phone, and then you can kind of build your own map of the world. Now, if I wanted to put this on airplane mode and navigate to these points around town, I could. It just uses GPS. So you can do things like that, right? And that's one of the key differences is that a secure and a private phone will allow you to use it completely offline. Whereas these other phones that are literally being made by people like Eric Prince, ex-founder of Blackwater, right? These private military companies, those solutions are not open source. There's very little visibility into what's going on behind the scenes. And it's just simply flawed. But this phone, this series of phone, it is a Google phone. It's using some pretty advanced features to maximize security. So one of the things it's doing is something called verified boot, which verified boot prevents malware from persisting on the phone. Because every time the phone turns on, it checks in with itself like, hey, has anything of the core operating system, has anything changed? And can I verify that it's changed? If something's changed, it won't even boot. It will roll back to the previous memory that it had. So all of these features prevent anyone from getting their hands on your phone and cracking into it. In fact, there was a report released recently by this company called Celebrite. What Celebrite does is give law enforcement tools that they can use to crack into their phone. So, let's say you get pulled over and they take your phone from you. You've got a Samsung phone. They don't need your PIN code. They don't need your PIN code. They can break into it as long as it's on. The only phone they couldn't, iPhones, no problem at all. The only phone that couldn't was actually they couldn't break into was one of these Graphene OS phones, and that's the real difference here. Is you need to have a proven level of security. So these just blow everything else out of the water. There are so many security improvements. I could go on and bore you with the technical details, but this is actually community focused. It's actually open source, and it's the best of all worlds. It's not just the phone and what's on it. It's also the communication tools. I've showed you a little bit about the VPN. So this VPN will encrypt your internet traffic and protect your internet service provider from seeing what you're doing. Similarly, the websites you're visiting, it'll hide your original location. Then you've got the different tools on the device, like the encrypted messaging and the video conferencing. And like you've discovered, it's pretty easy to use.
You know, what two things. Well, actually, I got about 20 or 30 things on here, but I'm going to have to go to some of the questions too, because I know we got some popping up right now. And folks, if you already had a question in here, please put it back in the chat and put it in capital letters. And if it already went past, please put it back in here and I'll make sure I ask. You know, one thing that blew my mind is when you go to the App Store, and you want an app, you were sitting here showing me all the junk. Your phone will tell you all the junk that's attached to it. And I'm like, hold on. That alone, okay, I don't know if you remember, but in the nature of our conversation, as we were going through this thing and you were showing me what was up, I was like, okay, that's when my brain did a 180 and said, okay, now I really care. Now I'm really paying attention, because somebody goes there and let's say they download Angry Birds for the kids or something. Bro, I had no idea all these things were, pulling in all this junk.
Yeah, and it's their spying. So I mean, this is a crazy thing about it too. I'm glad you brought up Angry Birds. I haven't looked at that one in a long time. So the cool thing about these open source apps, here we go. This is an app called Aurora Store. It's built by my friend Rahul in India, and he built this for people so they can download apps from the Google Play Store without needing a Google account. Because we all know once you sign into a Google account, boom, it's got your payment information. It's got all of your emails, which, guys, if they have your emails, which in terms of service, they can read all that stuff. They know who you are. No, there's no doubt about that, right? So they know what apps you download, right? So this is an app you can use to download it without logging into a Google account. But check this out. So what you can do is you get a nutrition facts, this Angry Birds 2 app. Scroll down. You can actually see there's 17 other companies in this app. Amazon Advertisement, Google Crashlytics, Unity 3D, Google AdMob, IronSource, all these different companies, which, by the way, a lot of these smaller companies, most of them are bought by Google's parent company, Alphabet. So they've got, they've got their flows all lined up. I think it's something like the 16 of the 20 top biggest analytics companies were purchased by Alphabet. It's an older study. But the crazy thing to note is, if you give your microphone or your camera permission to Angry Birds, all of these companies also have access to the same permission. Now, it's hard to say what they're doing for sure with it, but they have access to the same permission. And so that's why games don't work well on this phone. And that's a good thing. I mean, that's part of the security aspect, but that's also a good thing because, man, these things are stealing every single aspect of your life.
Man, this is so pernicious and insidious when you get down to brass tacks on this. And, we just kind of blindly walk into this thing thinking, it's like George Washington said about government, it's a dangerous servant or a fearful master. Well, these phones are exactly the same doggone thing. In fact, I would argue even worse. There was a documentary not long ago I saw, I can't remember where I saw it, but it was talking about how all of these things, all of these people like Bill Gates and who was the Apple guy?
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, Steve Jobs. That they would not even allow their own children to play with these things. Whether it was the phones or anything, they wouldn't even let their own kids play with these things. but
Yeah.
they're perfectly fine for you doing it. Of course, I'm sure they're not giving their kids the same jabs either. So, yeah,
Yeah. It's nuts, dude. And I've done studies on the kids aspect. It's so addictive. I mean, it's working on the same pathways you would have in a drug addiction or any other type of addiction, right? And these are all optimized to steal your precious energy, right? I mean, at a certain aspect, fuck the privacy. Like that doesn't matter so much. But what about your actual energy? And I know that there are a lot of people dealing with this because I'm dealing with this. But we have so much we need to go out and grow in the world, put our hands in the soil. But our most precious moments are really being stolen away by scrolling and being brainwashed at that time too. So there is a better way to use technology, and that's one of the things we want to do. There's these different apps that you can use on the phone. Here is an example of one. This is a Grow Tracker, right? This is sorry, I should have introduced this. This is a free and open source app store. It's called F-Droid, and if you have an Android phone, you can actually download this right now. But what the apps on here, typically you can use them completely offline, and they're free and open source. So what does that mean? You can see all of their code, you can study it, you can even copy it and take it for yourself. So let's see, what is it? Grow Tracker, right? Grow Tracker. So I was checking out this app. I think there's cannabis growers using this to track their own plants, but it's really cool because you can track the growth and how much you're watering it and the different conditions and the pictures and to track it over time. So this is pretty neat, right? If you've got crops at home. And so, yeah, there are different tools you can use. There's also apps you can use to measure. If you have got a solar farm, you can measure your solar output. So there are some really cool tools here that you can use on your homestead as well.
no, man. And you know what else I found is as I was, really working my way around this phone, I'm realizing that as I'm going through it, it's so nuts and bolts that I don't go down rabbit holes. For example, let's say you go to I don't know if this is me. I don't know if it's just me or most people, but I go in here, I'll pick it up for a specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm on my iPhone, bro, I'll get on there and if I'm not completely cognizant of what I'm after and to stay focused, next thing I know, I'm on 5 different rabbit trails and I didn't even intend to. Here, I pick this thing up and I'm doing what I got to do. And then I'm driving on, and there's something qualitatively different in terms of my interaction with it. So I'm not constantly on guard, which, I guess to a certain, I've never let my guard down. But I got to ask, I mean, with this, as effective as this thing is, do you believe the governments, I mean, whether United States of amnesia or otherwise, will eventually get around to try to ban these privacy-focused technologies like a bug phone?
I think eventually they will try, and I don't think they can retroactively go back and go door to door and take them away from people, but they could prevent, they can try and stop the implementation of them. But this is software, right? This is our First Amendment, the right to free speech and to free software. And you can look at cases like a Tornado Cash case, which the OFAC. So Tornado Cash, just to give you some context, is a thing that can take your Bitcoin and anonymize it. Not Bitcoin, but Ethereum. It can anonymize it and disconnect it from your identity. So this is just a piece of software. And so the developers, Roman Storm, are facing 20 years in prison, and they also sanctioned the software. Now, the Supreme Court went back on this, saying you can't sanction software. It's not a country, or it's not a country that you can do that to, but it's we do have the right to use software, and the more people that are using it, the stronger it gets. So that's really the crucial point we're at. Bitcoin, when it first started out, was a very weak network, right? Not many people were using it, but try and break the Bitcoin network today, you're going to have a really, really hard time. And this isn't even that revolutionary of a technology. Right now, as we're speaking, there's darknet markets on the darknet, which are bringing in over $1 billion a year. This is all black market activity, which I don't condone this, by the way. I'm just saying that there are large pockets of activity that exist outside of the control of the state. And guess what? They haven't been able to do anything at a wide scale to crack down on this. They haven't been able to crack Monero, which is my favorite private cryptocurrency. So these tools are alive and well. And I think we have to remember, like, there is this impression of this perception that they want to give you as well, that we can see everything that you're doing,
right?
And we have control of everything, when the reality might be different. There's just so many of us, good luck.
Now there are people listening to this podcast. When I say all over the world, Hakeem, I mean all over there's probably not as I look at our numbers, man, there's not a country that's not represented listening on this podcast, but some of those countries are going to be in places where, you talk about draconian laws, like coming out of places like, let's say, Australia. You offend anybody, bro, they're wanting to put you in the clink, especially if you speak about a certain group of people that we're not allowed to name, won't talk about them. Or there's other countries where, they got strict surveillance laws. Like, let's say certain part, China. How would these phones, because clearly some of these people are listening to this, and this might be a way out for them, or may not be it, because I'm too ignorant to know one way or the other. So I'm asking, how would this work in those places, like, let's say, Australia or China or any of these other places? Would this be a way for these people to get access to the rest of the world, or say what it is they want to say, let's say in Australia, without being thrown in the clink?
Yeah, possibly, right? It depends on the situation, but there's technologies. I think in China they use shadow socks, which is a way to proxy your internet, to proxy your connection to the internet around, so it can't be detected by the Great Firewall of China. And let's just say that, if I was in Australia and I needed to express myself and speak my mind on these issues, 100% I would be doing it from an above phone or a de-Googled phone that doesn't have any connection to Google. And I'd be using a means of communication that does not leave a trace. And ideally, I'm running it myself, or someone I trust is running it for me. And that's what we try to be at Above. We try to be someone you can trust. So when we run our video conferencing service, we have set up our server so that there are no logs. When we have our internet messaging service, we set it up so it can be end-to-end encrypted, which means that even on our servers, which the messages are only there for 30 days if you need them, the messages are completely gibberish. You can't even see what it is. So in order for something like this, in order for you to be caught, they actually have to catch you. So use something that is very, very hard to break into. And of course, be completely responsible for everything you're doing. But just to give you an idea, I think that people will need to use these technologies. It's always going to be hard, but I would rather take all the protections I can. Like you've been saying in your videos. I was watching the video about the electric fence and planting all the nitrogen fixers around the property. You need to have these protections in place. It's way better than doing it with your ass to the wind. So, yeah. Those are some things to think about. I do want to show you, while I have time, about these messaging features, right? So this is an app called Shiogram, and what Shiogram does is it allows you to communicate over a messaging protocol called XMPP. So just imagine it's kind of like email, right? An email, you sign up to an email provider, and they're responsible for sending your email in and out. Now, the difference is, instead of just email messages, you can send messages, you can send files, you can actually make calls. So you can see I have a group here, and I can call people in the group, and I can also video call people in the group. Now, the important part is this is end-to-end encrypted. So you can't actually get this data. Once the call ends, it's gone forever, right? So like, imagine we're moving forward in the future and we're really building solutions for ourselves. This is the type of stuff we're going to need to use. So anyone who's looking for private ways to communicate, look up XMPP. This is typically free. It's free to join a server. You can pay for our service. We offer 5 or 6 different services. This messaging platform, We offer a video conferencing server. We offer email, calendar, and a search engine, and an internet phone number. So you get all of these things for $100 a year. You could go to abovephone.com/suite, and I'll show you a little sale what we have going on. But I'll just end with this, and so also you can send encrypted messages, and as you can see, you can also reach out to phone numbers. So this is a fake phone number that's in my phone, but you notice this thing that looks like an email. Well, you can actually get your own US and Canada phone number, and you can make international calls. You can send international text messages. People can call you at this phone number. And the best thing is it's only $5 a month, and you can pay in Bitcoin. So
that's the part that blew my mind. When you explained that to me, I was like, okay. So $5 a month for phone service, that's kind of unbeatable, man. I mean, that's pretty hard to beat, especially when people are spending, I don't even know how much. I mean, so let me get this right. So you buy the phone. I mean, we do have some questions in here, and I think you're probably answering one of them right now. But so let's say somebody breaks bread and buys one of these de-Googled phones, man, say that 10 times. And now they're thinking, oh, shoot. Now what? I mean,
yeah. What happens next?
What do I spend every month conceivably to maintain this phone? So let's say I don't know what a regular phone bill is. I mean, I really don't. I mean, Michelle handles all that sort of thing, but I don't know what the average phone bill is a month, but I know it ain't cheap. So yeah. So talk to me about that, because anybody who's thinking about pulling the trigger on this, what are they looking at for the cost of the phone? And then in addition to that, to, basically to use it.
So the phones, there's only one price you need to pay up front, and that's for the phone. So there's only one price you need to pay. And so that's just one cost for the phone. You can kind of see, I'll go through this page in a second, which has all of our phones laid out here. But you can essentially bring any service you want. If you have AT&T, there's a little card in your phone called the SIM card. You plug it into this phone, it'll start working. So a lot of people bring their existing service. Maybe they're grandfathered into a good plan, or they like it. You can continue to use it. And this isn't just in America, it's everywhere in the world. This phone will work with any cell service, right? So for that reason, you can bring your own service. You can get a new service if you would like. We also have a new product, which is called the Data SIM. See if I can get to it here. So our product, it's called the Data SIM, and here we go. It's at the very bottom here. Boom. And this is, you could go to abovephone.com/data SIM. And the way I designed this product was, this is supposed to be like a prepper SIM. So it doesn't do phone calls and text messages, because those are all spied on anyway. You don't get a phone number with it, but you do get access to the cell network to connect to the internet. Guys, this is super fast. We've tested it. We've sent some of our teams out in the wilderness to go test how fast it is. It is much faster than what you would find from a regular third-party carrier. So there's different plans here, and you can also get this prepper SIM that it's really easy to set up on Above Phone. So you buy it, you get an email with a QR code, you scan it on your Above Phone, you're connected, right? So that's another option that you have. Now, with that, so you can bring your existing SIM, or you can get one of these data SIMs, or you can not have a SIM at all. And that way it means you wouldn't be connected to the cell network. You can use the phone on Wi-Fi. You can use the phone on Wi-Fi, or right here, I have it. I wonder if I can show you. I don't think I can bring the wire enough, but here, you kind of see how this phone is connected. I've got an Ethernet dongle, and I know you're going to love this, Billy. I've got an Ethernet dongle, and it's connected to Ethernet wire, and so I'm using it without radiation. So you could use it that way at home as well. You just wouldn't be able to go outside the house.
No, that's perfectly fine with me. Man, this thing is just so fantastic on so many different levels, man. I really... Honestly, as I was going through it, I was like, man, I don't know. And then as I got to play with this thing, I was like, good night, man. I don't find myself being drawn in 10,000 different directions. I mean, I'm here to do what I need to do, and then I move on. And honestly, knowing also that Nobody is listening to what I'm doing. I mean, it doesn't have to be illegal. I mean, that's the thing that drives me crazier than anything. Well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't do. That's exactly what the Nazis said. Okay. So I'm not playing that game. I mean, okay, if you're okay with everybody just knowing all your data, then what's your bank account number? Give me that. Tell me if you're okay doing that.
Where do you live?
Yeah.
And that's one side of the coin. The other side is how about we take it to these guys who think that they can run the world and they feel like they're entitled to all of the data in it. And on top of that, they feel like they can take what's in your phone and send you to jail based on what they can surveil off of your phone. How's that for an abuse of power? And if we don't stop these big tech companies and these people within our government who are hanging on to this data, eventually we'll be living in 1984, and you'll be scared to breathe. You'll be scared to think, because that's the next frontier. I mean, Elon Musk created Neuralink for a reason, so it's something to chew on. And using this private technology, I mean, in itself, that's an act of resistance, and you're not alone. This is becoming much more popular. There's a reason. It's not just an alternative. This is better than big tech. It treats you better. There's less ads. It's cheaper over time. The apps are better. Things just work, and it doesn't bother you. These are all really great reasons to get an Above phone. So check out. This is a sale we're about to have. Actually, I'm going to tell you guys the sale before we actually launch. But if you go to abovephone.com/love, we've got our Valentine's Day sale. Valentine's is tomorrow, but we're going to be running the sale from Friday till Sunday night. And so check this out, abovephone.com/love. And we have a number. You can get 2 phones, maybe one for you and one for the missus. You can combine them together and you'll get a deep discount that way. Let's see here. Just got disconnected from the internet. But if you go look on that page, you'll find a lot of different things. We've got tablets, we've got laptops, we've got phones, and all of the services we looked at today, that internet phone number, that works on the computer too. You can text from your computer. You can use the email. You can use the video conferencing. It's all meant to be universal. It's all meant to be free. You can use it from wherever. So yeah, check that sale out. And of course, if you're watching this show, you can use the discount code for you, which is, I think it's PERMA right now.
Yeah, PERMA is the discount code, so that'll get you squared away. All right, so folks, if you're interested, go check out Above Phone. I mean, this is the way I'm going to be operating. I'm kind of baby stepping into it, but folks, I really see myself fully jumping full steam ahead into it. I mean, I'm just sick and tired of all the dumb stuff that we got to go through. Folks, if you only knew the full extent of it, all the electronic crap that they're pulling on us. And I think it's because of, my stance on certain things that are going on in this world right now. And, I'll probably save it for another program, but I want to go deeper into the exact attacks that are unfolding right now. And look, folks, it's real. And especially if you're standing up or you're speaking out for some of this stuff. But hey, Hakeem, you want to field some of these questions? Says I got a Pixel,
Absolutely.
I got a Pixel 6a. Are you able to see this on the screen right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah. So this Pixel 6a, and you're paying for service. Yes. So you can get this data SIM. You can actually use it alongside your existing SIM. You can run them at the same time. And you should be able to use the data SIM with that phone. And also, guys, we have the data SIM available in many, many countries. So if you travel, you go to Mexico, you go to Canada, you go to Europe, you can get a data SIM for those as well. So yeah, it's really easy. Go to abovephone.com/data SIM. We'll put it in the show notes. And you purchase it there. You get a QR code, scan it, you're good.
All right. So we got one from Lydia here. It says, I think she's saying, are you private only if working with someone? I think she's asking, will the Above phone, I think you've already answered it, but I think she's asking that, do you have to have an Above phone to talk to another Above phone? No, folks, I actually did it today. I mean, I called Michelle, I called me, I called my friend, I called another guy, and yeah, you can call anybody.
This makes a huge impact for your personal privacy. Now, if you're calling someone and they've got an iPhone, you got to remember, phone calls aren't private. So you need to start using some of the tools on the above phone. We've got the video conferencing tool, which, by the way, it's like FaceTime. Invite someone to a FaceTime call, and you will be more private. You'll get more privacy. There won't be any logging in that video conference. So yeah, there are some tools that you need to use, but if you need to use phone networks, you just got to keep that in mind. This is for personal privacy. And this is why this Valentine's Day deal is so important, guys. And this is for you and your family. If you guys want to be private, both of you can have above phones. And that is the most private way I know to communicate. So we've got these pink phones available. And then we also have these different kinds of phones. And at the top, we have these 2-packs. So you could get 2 phones for a really good price here. You could get 2 laptops or 2 tablets, and then you could run this on devices that you know for sure are private. And this is what you need to do if you're taking this seriously.
Yeah, I think we're all going to have to, especially in light of everything that's going down. I mean, this couldn't be more timely, bro, and especially in light of all the things, this technocracy that we see unfolding right now. We see this panopticon. It's funny because you and I'm just going to kind of swing it back to the beginning before we come to a close here. You know, before I got out of the electrical trade, I'll be honest with you, bro, 99% of the work that I was doing as an industrial electrician, almost all of it was working at data centers. And I was actually a quality control guy. I mean, I had worked on, at that time, the Facebook data center in Dallas or Fort Worth, same thing. I mean, I've worked at the Cerner data center, you name it, man.
Yeah.
I've worked at every single, the data centers right now are going up like nobody's business. Well, I mean, I got to ask you, what's the purpose? Maybe it's a rhetorical question to a certain extent, but every single time for the last 20 years in the electrical trade, the biggest work going on throughout this country is not powerhouses like it used to be when I was early in the trade, but I'm talking this data centers everywhere. Why do you think that is? I mean, how many data centers do we possibly need?
As many for the satellites that are orbiting the Earth and all these new technologies that we have that are capable of surveillance. I mean, I don't know where they're going to stop. They're really not going to stop anywhere, right? So all these smart speakers in your home, all these devices, Windows 11, which has AI built into the operating system. I mean, they've got to store that data somewhere. And they would rather do it using our power and our water rights than anywhere else. So, yeah, it's scary to see that, and I'm sure you kind of have a behind the scenes like look into these data centers too. I'm interested, like,
bro, I could tell you a story. I don't know if I should. You know what? I don't care. I'm gonna say it anyway. Yeah, check this out. I was working at the data center. I was working on the night shift in Fort Worth at the Facebook data center there. And it was crazy. So we're putting in everything that needs to get done. And then all of a sudden they blocked off this section of the building where all of the servers were going to be. Now, I can speak electricity all day long, but when it comes down to the stuff that you do, man, I'm all thumbs. But I will say this. It was the craziest. Now, this is going to sound conspiratorial as all get out, but hey, y'all, it happened. It happened. So they ran us out of this. It happened overnight. And I'm talking this one data center alone, the server room was probably the size of a football field. And I don't know how they did it. I don't know when they did it, but it was one night we weren't working. All of a sudden we came in the next day. They had tape over all the doors and there was just a tiny slither of a crack that you could see through. And you could see these, they said these were new servers that didn't put off any heat, which seemed pretty crazy to me because normally in a data center, it's very cold. You got air conditioning running day and night in these places. And I was like, this place isn't even anywhere close to ready. Bro, they put like armed guards in front of this thing. I don't know what it was. And the idea at that time was for Zuckerberg to come out with, and by the way, dude, if anybody ever sees that dude, I swear aliens exist. You ever see that dude in person?
Yeah.
I swear he looks like he just dropped off of a spaceship somewhere. And had these two big gorillas walking around with him, man, like security guys.
Anyway, you saw him. You saw Zuckerberg there.
Not up close, but yeah, he was there.
Wow.
He came in there. And it happened so quick and nobody told you he was coming. So he was one of the people there. Anyway, bro, they filled up this entire data center and had these servers going. And I was like, you would need an entire army to put this thing in here. To this day, I don't know how it was done. I don't know who did it. I don't know how they did it, because we were the manpower there. And I don't know how they were able to get it done, but they got it done. So
that's where the $500 billion, that's what it goes to, right? Except instead of Zuck, now it's going to Larry Ellison and Sam Altman.
Yeah, but what's crazy, bro, is they said that they had in this one, okay, so this was one of many Facebook data centers they had. They said just one of these data centers had enough oomph in it, I guess, to store all of the data of every human being on this planet for the rest of their lives. So I'm like, okay, that's just one data center. And they had them going all over the doggone place and probably still do. So when I retired out of the trade, good night, man. I mean, this is all, in fact, that's where I was basically putting, working quality control, putting this stuff together for Facebook. I mean, you name a data center, bro, I've been there. And it's crazy. Yeah. So I can't help but wonder if I wasn't building my own prison. And maybe to a certain extent, that's maybe the way you felt when you were working at these places.
But hey, we dropped the tools, and now we're building something much, much better. And that's what's going to matter at the end of the day. And they can throw all this artificial intelligence in our faces and put it everywhere, but it's no match against organic intelligence. And God is on our side. So I've got no fear. I just have immense gratitude that we're here. I'm here with you, Billy, and we're living out this this crazy adventure.
Yeah. Well, somebody says here, illegal Mexicans. Yeah. Maybe they brought in a bunch of, maybe that's how they got those data centers together.
We don't got them anymore. We don't got those illegal Mexicans anymore. Shit's about to be real expensive now.
Yeah, bro. They're actually, you know what, man? We got Americans moving to Mexico right now. So, yeah, we got a lot of expats going the other way. So I guess that's the way it ought to go. Well, tell everybody one more time, bro, how they can find you and get one of these above phones.
Absolutely, man. So yeah, you can follow my work at takebackourtech.org. I'll put that in here, takebackourtech.org. I write a lot of educational content. This is kind of the nonprofit educational work that we do. And so if you want to learn about privacy, if you want to learn about technology, you can do so here. You can sign up to our email list, takebackourtech.org. And also, if you want to go check out the sale, go to abovephone.com. Sorry, guys, I think I'm having some internet issues right now. But abovephone.com/love. And that's our Valentine's Day sale. It starts now. It ends at Sunday. There's this little button, too, at the bottom right. You can chat with us. That message goes to me. It goes to my team. We'll get your questions answered right away. And if you buy a device, if you get a phone, a laptop, any device you get a free 45-minute support call. We'll take your old phone. We'll get your new phone. We'll throw some holy water on that old phone to exercise Bill Gates, and we'll help you move all your data over. We got you. We can't wait to support you. And thanks for having me on again, Billy.
Oh man, thank you so much for being on, because honestly, I can't think of a time where this stuff is, if you got any sense at all, man, you ought to be thinking about these things. So, hey, I want to thank Denise over at Renewed Homestead for handling the moderation here. I want to thank all of you. Yeah, thanks, Denise. Yeah, she's wonderful. I want to thank everybody for being in the chat, and folks, honestly, I know these things ain't cheap, man, but a lot of you are paying for phones anyway. So it's crazy world we're living in. Until next time, stay alert, stay alive.
Learn a new thing, channel and nature, got the knowledge ring, with roots that run deep, wisdom from soul, and permaculture dream. Let the ideas unfold. I'm grooving with the truth. Feeling nature's food.